So I had COVID. That's why I felt worse than I've ever felt in my life. Who knew? Whoops. Hey fam. Since I had COVID, I was basically unable to do almost anything else with myself. Really, reading was a challenge during some of the worst of it, but it was easier than looking at a screen. So it was really hard for me to write. It was hard for me to just think. So writing was really hard. So yeah, I got more reading done. If you saw my last video, I just recently discovered the Twisted Tales series that are basically all the Disney classic fairy tales with major twists done. And so I just actually finished, I ate this one up, y'all. If you saw my title, you'll know this is the Mulan one, Reflection. And this was awesome. Yeah, this literally was like one of the quickest reads of my life. I probably would have finished it in a day if I had had the physical and mental capacity to do so. Because I read it over the weekend and it was super fun. So the first one that I read was the Beauty and the Beast retelling, As Old as Time. Check out my review on that if you're interested. I loved it. It was really great. This one was very different. It's a different author. This one is by Elizabeth Lim. And this one was different in that the first one that I read was basically taking place, part of it, a big part of it was taking place along with the timeline of the movie. This one is almost like the movie was kind of chopped in half and this story was inserted into it. And it was really cool. So basically this is going to be a spoiler free review because I really want y'all to read this. If you watch this and you're looking into this series, it totally has my vote so far. I'm only 2 books in, keep that in mind. But so far, I've really loved both of them. This one, the concept was, what if Mulan had to travel to the underworld? And the twist is basically that, this book starts right at the scene where they're battling the Huns in the mountains. I'm assuming you've seen the movie if you're thinking about reading these books. And this book does assume that you've seen the movie because why would you read it if you hadn't? So yeah, it basically starts off there where Mulan is shooting that firework to create the avalanche, and instead of her getting kind of sliced by Shan Yu, Shang, that the twist is that Shang jumps in front and saves her, and so he is basically dying, and so she has to travel to the underworld in order to save him. Now I will say, there was moments, especially when she was entering the underworld, that I was very much I don't understand your decision here. Why? I don't know. But as I went along, it kind of made more sense. And by the end of the book, I was totally into it. I was fully on board with the whole thing, why she did what she did. I really also so this was incredibly fast paced. It was just basically just nonstop adventure story. There was definitely moments, I mean, she's going to the underworld, right? So there's definitely moments where it gets pretty dark. And there's some mild creepy vibes. Maybe I'm just a little jaded because this is a young adult. It's a Disney story, right? So these Twisted Tales do seem to be considerably darker because they are for an older audience. But I mean, compared to other things that other series that I read and stuff that I'm really into, maybe it was supposed to be scarier and I just didn't pick up on that. That didn't make me enjoy it any less. They were still darker, pretty creepy scenes, and it was also just really interesting because I personally am a huge fan of, I mean, one reason I love fantasy is because I love mythology and I love studying about other cultures and especially the beliefs that other cultures have, other religions, whatever their philosophies are, etc. And I don't really know a whole lot um, about Chinese culture. I don't know a whole lot about. So I believe that the underworld that this is depicting. I want to do more research. So keep in mind, I don't know anything about this culture here, but I googled one thing while reading this, and that was King Yama. Because King Yama, and he's mentioned on the back here, so they call it Dayu. The underworld is called Dayu, I think, Diyu. And then King Yama, I Googled him, and excuse me. Um, what I found is that he's actually a figure from Hindu, and I know that Buddhism is like what's it called? Like a sect of Hinduism. And so it's like Hinduism and Buddhist faith. And I also believe that Buddhism traveled into China. I don't know any of the actual history, but and I meant to look up Elizabeth Lim. One day I'll get better at doing these reviews. These are new to me. Bear with me. But I would imagine Elizabeth Lim is probably of Chinese descent, I would hope, given that this is a book about all Chinese characters. So she probably is like taking from her own cultural experience. And so I don't know. I'm thinking it's like the Buddhist underworld though because of the King Yama thing. But that being said, there's also a character in here called Meng Po that definitely sounds like a Chinese name to me. I don't know. But I loved the character of Meng Po. Like from the get go, she was like that perfect level of like just like that creepy but like somehow serene fairy tale kind of um, just like disturbing vibe that like I've only gotten from like movies or media that are like the type of creepy that like Chinese and Japanese stories have. I don't know how else to word it. It's like their own special type of like, ugh, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's gonna make sense. I'm sorry, I don't have words, but that's kind of the vibe that I got from Meng Po and some of the scenes, and it was just like, I love this. Like, it didn't quite scare me in the way some things that I have read make me really uncomfortable, but it had that like it was really good. And so her character was also just really interesting like throughout the story. So I personally just want to research more about all of this stuff, like just like the descriptions of the underworld, the things that the spirits have to do as penalty, or like the concepts of like, heaven or reincarnation or whatever, right? It was just so cool. So if you're into, even if you're not like a huge Disney person and you happen upon this video, you might just find this. Like there was multiple times I honestly did kind of forget that I was reading a Disney book. Aside from like the character names and stuff, it felt like, like I said, it was like splicing the Mulan movie in half and just like wedging this adventure into the middle of it. So it was completely different. It wasn't really, aside from like the first few chapters at the beginning and the end, that aren't taking place in the underworld, you almost forget that you're reading a story about Mulan. So it was a really fun ride. My one complaint as far as the story goes is that like Mulan is one of my favorite Disney movies, and a huge part of that, aside from her being amazing, is just that like I love Mushu. He's like one of the best side characters, and he barely has any lines in this. Um, like he doesn't come with her to the underworld. There's another guardian that she goes with to the underworld, um, but he's not in the movie or anything. So he was just created by this author. Um, so I don't know. It just kind of like was a bummer to me. And the few lines he has while she's not in the underworld in the beginning or the end, like I guess I can kind of see why maybe they decided not to. It might have been a better decision not to have him go to the underworld and be in the entire book, because maybe it's just hard to write a ad-libbing Eddie Murphy character, because let's be real, Eddie Murphy, it's like, I feel like it'd be like trying to write the genie, you know, like you can't replace the original. And maybe it was for the best, and maybe I shouldn't complain about it, but I was like kind of bummed that there wasn't more Mushu, not gonna lie. But yeah, the few lines that he had were either just like him just regularly like just talking, or like there was some lines that I felt like were supposed to be funny but just kind of weren't. No offense to the author. Again, you can't top masters like Eddie Murphy or Robin Williams, you know? It's just not gonna happen. So, but yeah, aside from that, like I said, this was such a fun ride. If you're a fast reader, you'll probably read it in a day. Um, and yeah, I think the next one that well, not I think, I know the next one that I've started reading is A Whole New World, which is obviously the Aladdin retelling. Um, Yet another favorite. I've actually started collecting these books because like I'm having such a good time with all of them. I might read the next one a bit slower because I'm finally like recovering. I'm still like a little like I can't hear very well out of this ear. I don't know if anyone else that had COVID had that, but it's pretty annoying. But I'm finally like feeling pretty human again, and so aside from going back to work, I will be getting back to my own novel. So yeah, I might not be zipping through these quite as fast, but I'm having a great time. So if you want to see more reviews, if you have read these books and want to share anything about them or tell me which ones your favorite are, just anything, no spoilers. Um, but yeah, please comment below, point me in the right direction of some other videos about these, whatever. I'm really into them, and I will probably see you guys very soon. Please like, share, subscribe. It takes 5 seconds, but it really helps me out, and I'll see y'all very soon.